Sorry for the little hiccup there at the beginning. I had moved my OBS over so it looked like I was getting 5 kilobits per second. I'd literally just cut off the edge. Oh, hey, I'm the expert layman, and this is the psychology of toxicity. There was a really weird game bug I experienced a couple years ago where it seemed like a normal game up until kickoff, and then there appeared to be a second ball in the game, but it was like not all the way there. And based on it moving around and stuff, it appeared to be getting hit by invisible cars. What I'm guessing is basically the server somehow overlapped our two games, and we could see the ball from another game, but we couldn't see any of the cars. That is until the ball went into the goal, because we're like just chatting with you, like, what the hell is going on? So we're not really focusing on the game a whole lot because there's this bug going on. And I don't think the other game knew that this was happening. But when they did, the other game, the shadow game did score, we all got knocked back. And while we were getting knocked back, we could see the other cars. And then we'd reset like a goal had been scored, but the score didn't go up for either team. And as we're like freaking out about this, they scored a second goal. Same thing happened. It based on the way the ball was moving around, it didn't look like they had any idea that, you know, our game was being screwed up by their game. So after that second goal, everything went back to normal. Hold on a second. I sometimes think about that. I'm like, I wonder if they just had a normal game, if the people in that other game had no idea that there was this other game going on underneath the surface of their game, and that their game was having an effect on our game, and, well, maybe our game was having an effect on their game. They couldn't really know for sure. I'm not going to be talking about bugs. I'm actually talking about this super toxic from, like, I don't know, gold to into diamond, and what that's all about. And I kind of have a different way of explaining it. Oh, by the way, this is I I stretched my screen. I mean, I play on 3 screens, so I suppose I should explain. I've been trying to understand the toxicity thing, you know, because like I don't have like the physical skills, like my reflexes. I'm old. I'm 47. I get by on psychological prediction, understanding what people are going to do and being able to screw with people, you know, psyop stuff. And basically I get by boosting my teammates. I can just create openings and, you know, shut down the other team, force them into double and triple commits, and just like, it's the thumbnail. I'm the master Roshi of Rocket League. I ain't taking out Jiren, but I can boost some other people. But I need that cooperative environment in order to do my magic. Let me check my stream. But I can do some. But I need that cooperative environment in order. What the hell is going on? Oh wow, autoplay. Gotta love it. Sorry. Technical stuff. Let me check one more time. Oh God, my own laugh. Nobody wants to hear that. Yeah, it looks like I'm good. Completely lost track of where I was at though. Oh, and when I'm playing with people that are, I've been trying to find the language for this because it doesn't really exist in the community, because you're either toxic in chat or you're bad. And there's like no nuance in the analysis of like the toxicity. And one thing is everybody has this idea. It's like, oh, there's people using bad words in chat. Okay, let's get rid of the bad words. Okay, now they're still saying mean things. Okay, well, let's get rid of the words associated with being mean. Okay, well, they're still going to say, you know, all you're doing is like shoving in one drawer and another one pops open. So when you don't let them be like toxic in chat, it's going to squeeze out into the gameplay, and it's going to erupt in areas. It's not a coincidence that it'll appear in the areas where people don't notice, which is like pretending to be bad when you're just actually trying to throw. And it's interesting because some of the people, some of them don't realize they're doing it. Like there's this actually makes me really sad because there was this was a couple of years ago and hardly had, almost no views on any of my stuff on YouTube. And I don't remember what video it was, but I'd done an animation to some song, and apparently he had some attachment to it. Said something about it was his dad's favorite or something. It's like, oh god, and he wanted to play with me, he saw I did Rocket League, and said sure, and we went into play, and we're in voice chat, and he's all like happy and stuff, but he kept would make like a deliberate approach on the ball where the only way, the only thing that could have happened from that approach was to center it for the other team. And he'd apologize, like, oh my God, I don't know why I screwed up. And it's like, he was honestly not wanting to screw me over, but I think he'd just been playing toxic for so long. He'd actually lost the ability to play cooperatively. And eventually he just apologized and left, just disturbed by it. And that's what I fear. So I'm saying that there are two games being played. There's the game that we all know and love, and then there's this other game that is not about the score at all. And you could call it the crab bucket. The feeling that people are always trying to drag you down, it's because it is true. And just because it feels like it's happening all the time and from lots of people, doesn't mean you're not paranoid. It's just becomes such a toxic environment that it's like they suck you in. And I realize it's like a tribe too. And I had all these great ways of explaining this, and I'm drawing a blank. I suppose I can get in and play, but I will fix the screen because I don't know. I don't think people want to watch it like that or like that. I will go with this. And I did an experiment recently. I had no interest in competitive because it's just so toxic, and I wanted to get better. But at some point, I wanted to go back in and see what it was like, and I went back in, and it was worse than ever. Especially if you have -YouTube at the end of your name, which is why I'm going by Assistro. So after I removed the YouTube, I'm like, let's just make something cooperative, and I'll just go in and try to draw everybody I can into a cooperative game by just passing really good assisting, making great saves, doing all the things that, if you're a cooperative player, these are the things you're like, ooh, there's one of the good ones. And it almost doesn't matter because kickoff bail, little sus, but actual toxic people would be more subtle than that. Okay, this all kind of comes down to the reason that it can stay hidden. That there's an assumption that people are working from, typically without even realizing it. And as long as you have this assumption in place, it's going to be really hard to see the shadow game. And that assumption is, I earn all my goals. If it says my name there, I earned it. But as you know, in almost, lots of organized sports with, officials, referees, there's such a thing as a unearned goal or unearned run or something along those lines. Because, you have to recognize that if you score a point, but you scored a point because of somebody else's mistake, it's not worth the same thing as a point that was scored on your own effort. But for some reason in Rocket League, nobody wants to believe that the goal they just scored, the one that was floated up in the air by somebody on the other team, right to you. No, I earned all that. That's me. Why are you being toxic by trying to say that I didn't earn that, Oh, and that box up in the corner, since I'm on 3 screens, I had to find a way to get the chat in, because normally I don't like the chat, but thought it might be relevant. Playing pretty good right now. I got to play with a friend of mine, and he's really good. Also, I'm just really happy to be out of competitive right now. Like, really happy. Like, here. Oh, I'm going to make a claim here, and no one's going to want to hear this. Let's say from gold and all the way up to just into diamond, the vast majority of goals are unearned goals. If you take the total number of goals. Because remember, you have to count the run-up games. The vast majority of goals are unearned. And another claim I'll say is, in competitive, the vast majority of games are decided by, I don't really have a good term for this, basically people throwing in one manner or another. The reason it's hard to lock down is because self-sabotage and team sabotage is not, consciously there's a clear distinction, but like when, someone's doing their reasoning with emotions that, on an unconscious level, it doesn't have the same kind of contradiction detection. Like the distinction between screwing yourself and screwing other people, especially when you get ragey, you're just like, I hate everything, especially me, But game I was in just yesterday, the one where I'm like, yeah, I think I'm done with competitive. Like I things don't really get under my skin that much, but there's a point where it's like, this is just so obviously parasitic, and I'm not really learning anything new here. I learned a lot. Like seeing the more extreme versions of the toxic behavior kind of helps you bring into more sharp relief the more subtle. But the game I keep trying to bring up. Within the first 30 seconds, maybe 40 seconds, had a teammate that you had clear approach on a rolling ball. No challenge. He could have approached it any way he wanted to, and he basically hit it off banked it off the wall and floated up as a pass for the other team. Like there was no, it's not like it was a difficult shot or it was challenged or there was some kind of pinch, whatever. No, he just did it. It's like, okay, that's pretty. Okay, what are these guys doing? Yeah, they're not really taking this seriously, but that's okay. And it's like, and I like, great pass, okay, It's like, shut up. Stop being toxic, calling out toxicity is the new toxicity, And then he did it again. It's like, wow. Like, and I was like, can we just skip to the part where you start own goaling? So he did. And, we'd hit 330 by that point, so, so glad to be able to leave matches like that. And I tried to forfeit. And the other guy I was with tried to forfeit. No, he didn't. Sorry, I got the games confused. Yeah, I tried to forfeit and nothing happened. I'm like, well, if you're just going to throw, I'm just going to make smart-ass comments in chat while I'm waiting to get my new game, until you release me. It's like, stop being toxic. Why are you throwing? Like me. It's like, what's the point in playing in a game with someone who's literally joined the other team? Like, how is that supposed to be fun when you're in a literal 4v2 or a 5v1? And all 5 people descended on me, started calling me the toxic one. And it's basically the tribe emerged, the tribe of the shadow game, because the goal, and okay, maybe I should split things up here a little. By my estimate, about a quarter of the population I was describing, like gold to low diamond, about a quarter are cooperative, friendly players who will play that way regardless of how crappy their teammates are. They don't get drawn into the toxic play. They just keep trying to do it. And if things get too bad, they just leave. They don't really mess around in chat. I would say there's about an eighth of the population that is always toxic, just sometimes more overt than others, and they will never play cooperatively. unless the sacrificial lamb is on the other team, and then it's okay. And it's basically something low status males who weren't properly socialized. This is just what humans do. This is just like when you remove the culture that keeps us from being like monsters. This is kind of what we degrade to where the low status males they're all terrified about being at the bottom, so they will get into conflicts with each other to try to push one of them down. And as soon as the group sees that one person is weakened, they'll all jump on them because if I'm on the side that's jumping on, the redheaded stepchild or the whipping boy or whatever you want to call it, like, I'm not at the bottom. I'm not at the bottom. And that's the goal, essentially, of the shadow game, is to not be at the bottom. This is why they only care about individual score. They do not care at all about whether they win the game or lose the game. And since they don't care, their MMR will just kind of settle to a certain area that's like, if they removed the toxic elements and were able to play cooperatively, they'd be at least one full rank higher. Like plat to diamond, probably diamond to champion, and it, like, so essentially the vast majority of the population is also smurfing. Oh, shoot, I think I skipped something. I haven't seen bots in so long. I forgot how to play with them. Ooh, that was... Yes, I didn't finish that game. The guy held everybody all the way to the end. And occasionally someone would be like, just forfeit. It's like, well, I tried, but, we're all being held hostage here. And the game ran up to like 12-0. Because basically everybody wrote off the chat to have like a struggle session to try to get me to, I don't know, to get me to do the thing that they would have done in the same position. That they couldn't believe that I wasn't just leaving, because in that position, if they were getting dogpiled by like everybody, that's like the worst case scenario. They have nightmares about that. So the fact that like it wasn't really working on me was just setting him off, and I think that's why the tribe emerged so like clearly, even though no objective measure of a guy who floated up 2 sweet passes for the other team and then own goal is somehow the victim in all this. And the guy who's like, I'm not playing if you're doing that, is the toxic one who's throwing. Like, that explains a lot of the behavior where it's like when people like don't move up to cover like somebody else, you're driving the ball up and you float up a pass and both people are kind of sitting back leaning at the goal, like, just like itching and, not really doing anything, just waiting for your drive to fail so that they can take an individual drive because they don't want to risk. It's all about individual points, and they don't want to risk doing anything that could give teammates points because the idea is to put people down in the bottom. Is to push your teammate's score down, suppress your teammate's score as much as possible, and to amplify yours as much as possible. And the best way actually to elevate yours is to parasitize cooperative players. Because if you're with cooperative players, you're all putting in more than you expect to get back, and the sum is greater than the parts. Like, just a little bit of cooperation can make such a huge difference. Like, there's so many times I've been grouped up, and I've been with people that were bad. They were not very good players, but they weren't asses, and they kind of knew how to work with other people. But even with that limited skill set, we were just dominating people that were like ranks higher. So the power of cooperation is hokey as it sounds, is incredible. But when you get like, they're basically like vampires, and that's what happened in the game. It's like 5 hungry vampires attempted to descend on on a meal, and it just wasn't working for some reason. And what an asshole! You know? I'm thirsty here. But it's just like, I always bring road rage in, but like people who feel secure with themselves don't try to get wins in petty ways. It's funny. I said something the other day that was really cool, and I thought it a bunch of times in a bunch of different ways. But we got my team got up by like 4 points, 5 points, and we were starting to try some. And I always love to see that when your teammates, they start trying wilder shots and they flick up passes in weird ways, and you know they'll go for an air dribble like once you're up. It's like that. And the way I said it, I think is pretty good. I said, you know, getting silly when you're dominating is a sign of good character, because it shows, you know, I don't want to throw, but I also don't want to run up. So I'm just going to increase my shot difficulty so we don't just keep running up the score on these poor bastards. And maybe cool stuff will happen. But the thing about competitive that makes it really, really a pressure cooker is the inability to leave. Like, you will be penalized if you don't continue to stay and subject yourself to the toxicity. You don't get to play this again for a while, depending on how. That was pretty cool. So yeah, when you go in, it's like you're wondering why you're playing the game and things just aren't working out right. It's a lot easier to notice something that's there than something that isn't there. And there's a lot in like the unconscious dialogue between teammates that you couldn't possibly articulate, but you know it's there. You know, you can tell when somebody's driving angry. You can tell when somebody veers for a boost that you know, when the ball's in the other direction, that, you know, hey, they're going after the boost. You know, and you know, when they lean in this direction or that direction, or a lot of times I'll backflip or do a forward flip when I don't really need to, because in my teammate's unconscious mind, they're like, okay, well, he's committed to this trajectory for a certain amount of time. I don't have to worry about him turning. That lets me plan further ahead. You know, we're doing tons of little things like this to try to assist our teammates when we're in a cooperative mood. But the list is so long and they're so subtle that when somebody decides, you know, screw my team, they start unchecking all the boxes, and it's really hard to know. It's just like suddenly, like the wind went out of your team's sail, but you can't really tell what exactly happened that caused that. That's because it's, you know, since they can't be overtly toxic with, you know, as easily, it's going to manifest in more subtle ways. And it doesn't end. I'm so chill now. I'm so happy to be out of competitive. And it was actually funny. I did a little experiment for a while. I'm like, okay, I'll leave the Expert Layman Dash YouTube up and play for 2 weeks, and then I'll change the name to Assistra, but I'll just change the name. I'm not changing anything else, picture or whatever, and see how that goes. So when I had the YouTube thing on there, I'd be getting pushed down into like gold and lower, because like as soon as, because of the way the shadow game works, anything like different, you know, it's like the old days where, you know, bullies would pick out anyone who was different, and then the group would like descend on the person who's different. So if you stand out in any way, especially something people are, you know, insecure, bitter, jealous people typically are triggered by, well, you can be pretty sure that they'll gang up on you if you have Dash YouTube. So I'm like, okay, you know, mid-high gold if I have the YouTube on there, because basically anybody with the propensity to throw is going to put they're going to throw sweaty, you know, when they see the YouTube. So like, okay, we'll do the Assistra thing, see how that works. So, well, I think I got as high as, I don't know, plat 3, but I was also, if I'd have just played nice, like, I wanted to basically poke the bears, test out some lines, see what triggers people, see if I can get people to admit that they're throwing, which you can actually do. Like, that guy who's totally throwing, he's like, what are you talking about? I'm just playing, you know, I dropped my controller, you know, I got some lag, you know, my girlfriend yelled at me or whatever, and, you know, and they're just going down the list, and eventually like, dude, like, okay, yeah, I was throwing, you know, and it's like, and they'll be like, no, I was trolling. It's like, trolling is not a clandestine operation, you know? There's supposed to be a, haha, you know, like a payoff. Like, trolling's more of a, I don't know, maybe I'm looking at it wrong, but I see it as more of a hit and run activity where you go, ha ha. It's not like, I trolled you, and you were completely oblivious to the fact that I trolled you. I don't think that counts if the target doesn't understand what you're doing. I don't know. But it's like, it just kind of... Oh, and the breakdown of the populations that I was talking about earlier. You know, my estimate of like a quarter, you know, players always play... And by the way, not me. I will match tone or leave. And if they're playing more toxic than I feel comfortable matching, I'll just leave. But the reason that an eighth seems really low for like, you know, toxic players is that's just the ones that are toxic either in play or in chat all the time. It's a spectrum with a lot of overlap. Like, a lot. It's more like a contagion, really. Because that's the one thing I was really trying to find good ways to separate. Like, the people that are always toxic from the people that aren't really, but they've been in a few games with toxic people. Oops. And, like, they're just pissed off. And, like, you carry that stuff over to the next game. It's not like... Well, like you're doing a Zen cleansing ritual. You know, after each match, you say a few mantras or whatever, and... I kind of screwed him there. So, what I wanted to see is how many people who aren't actually toxic, who have just kind of been infected. And you can pull a lot of people out of it. And through a lot of different techniques. Like, the best one, obviously, is even people who, like, are, like, not completely toxic, but, like, toxic a lot, they still like winning and dominating and, you know, scoring goals and dunking on people. So if you can, like, float them up or, like, a good pass early on, a lot of them will actually play nice with you. Like, they'll be, you know, because they don't want to believe they are what they are, so occasionally they want to just for the purposes of self-delusion, they want to play nice once in a while. But you can tap into that. But it also, like, you can pull people out of, like, if they've just been with toxic person after toxic person, and then somebody kind of screws you a little bit, but it's really not that bad, and then they say, my bad. It's like, oh, well, that's not something toxic people do very often. Like extreme ownership, because there's a lot of ways that you can screw teammates that are subtle, like I was talking about before, where, like, you made it harder on them, but the way you made it harder on them is kind of abstract and not really recognized, but they still feel it. They're like, you know, on a deeper level, they know it. So, like, if you apologize to them for screwing them, but it's in one of these subtle ways that, like, it can be, like, really meaningful to someone who's, like, an actual nice player, but they've had a few bad games. But the biggest thing is floating up sweet passes. That's that's the way to win friends in Rocket League. You know? Help people dunk on people, and they will like you. Because, you know, they also want to believe that they're awesome. Who doesn't? Everybody should believe they're Batman on the inside, you know? Let's just assign a good self-esteem. Oh shoot, he's not as close as I thought. Oh, I screwed up. Ooh, he's back quick. That's the other thing, that's like running back. And, oh, the thing where it's like the ball's heading for the goal and, like, two of your teammates are already back there. And they both seem to be waiting for the other one to, like, do something. That's because whichever one goes first is less likely to earn points from the endeavor. Because if you go first, you're probably not going to be able to maintain possession. You're gonna have to pass it downfield, which is like what, you know, cooperative players do, which is one of the ways that cooperative players get parasitized, because they're not playing the shadow game. They're not like only interested in their own individual score. They want the highest score relative to their teammates, but more accurately, they don't want to be at the bottom of the scoreboard. And if they can suppress somebody down lower than them, then that's the person that'll be the target. You know, like it's kind of like please execute me last. You know, it's not like a strategy. Oops, a winner employs. It's like something a defeated or low status person does, to just anything to not be at the bottom. And I think, you know, I think it wouldn't be as bad if, like, you know, you allowed people to say whatever they want in chat and then give people the power to filter out the words they don't like, rather than deciding for people. But that's a different discussion. I think I got through most of what I wanted to talk about. You know, I should keep playing with these guys. These guys are pretty cool. How long have I been going? Oh, 32 minutes. Oh, and the Master Roshi, yeah. I do think of myself as the Master Roshi. Oh, I think I talked about this already. I'm already going in circles. Yeah, I think I'm going to go ahead and end the stream here. This was The Psychology of Toxicity. The Invisible Shadow Game. And its tribes. Oh. Where's my mouse? Oh, I am the Expert Layman. You all have a great